Can I tell you guys a story about Jim Simons?
Who's
Is that okay with you? Okay, Rob, can you pull up Jim Simons, billionaire?
Yeah.
Okay, this story ought to inspire all of you, okay? So Jim Simons, who recently died earlier this year, his net worth at the time was $30 million. Let me tell you something.
$30 billion.
$30 billion.
Yeah.
Let me tell you some interesting things about this guy. You ready? Jim Simons gets out of college, and he starts working for the NSA. He works for the NSA, comes out with a system to be able to investigate and find out what Russia was doing. Just an absolute hero in the NSA. They love him. Until 1968 when he gets fired because he publicly criticized that the Vietnam War was a bad idea. Boom, the NSA fires him. Then he goes and becomes a teacher. I think he's teaching at Harvard, a couple different places. Then he's messing around. And then at 40 years old, without a finance degree, he somehow gets into the financial industry, starts a company called Renaissance Technology, okay? Renaissance Technology in 1982, he uses AI, Vinny, in 1982. Wow. Okay, let me say this again. He uses AI in 1982, way ahead of his game. At the time, everybody who was hedge fund managers or funds that they would create, they would say it's not a good idea to trade any kind of the stocks faster than a week and a half. Like, you got to let it sit. And then he says, no, I don't agree with that. He hires this guy from MIT, comes in. The two of them together start a fund called the Medallion Fund using AI with a technology that was secret till today. No one has access to. But watch what happens with this Renaissance technology. 1988, the fund starts. 1989, they don't have the technology finalized yet. The fund does minus 4% in 1989. You know what it does the next year? The next year, the fund does 55% return. From there till today, I'll give you three funds to compare. If in 1988, you had $1 to invest between S&P 500, Berkshire Hathaway, or his fund, Medallion Fund, to see how that money would do for you.
$1.
$1 in 1988 till today. Okay, let me say it again. So you got S&P 500. Okay. Then you have Berkshire Hathaway with Warren Buffett. Then you got his fund. $1 in 1988 invested into S&P 500. Today's $42. Okay. Right. $1 invested into Berkshire Hathaway in 1988. Today would be $154. Killing it. By the way, both of them are ridiculous returns you're talking about. That means you put $100,000, you now have $4.2 million. Yeah. You put $100,000 in Berkshire Hathaway, now you have $15.4 million. However, if you would have put $1 in the Medallion Fund in 1988, you know what it'd be today? $44,000.
What?
Annual rate of return of 69%.
No, you said 44,000. Okay, gotcha.
$44,000
for $1.
For $1.
All right.
S&P's $42.
Gotcha.
Berkshire's $154. The dollar is
out of the market.
$44,000. So guess what?
Sense.
At the beginning, when they're talking about this AI software that they have that's going to revolutionize all the funds, they say, you guys are out of your freaking minds. Yeah. This guy gets so pissed off to prove his argument that they have the best fund. Guess what he does by mid-90s? He says, moving forward, here's what we're no longer doing. We're no longer, allowing anybody else to invest into this fund. We don't want any more money. It's just current employees and previous employees and people that have already put money in the fund. Yeah. So no more new money. Then guess what they do in 2005? In 2005, makes an announcement. Everybody that has money in the Medallion Fund, you got to get out. We're going to give all your money. You got to get out. This is going to be us. We don't want any other new money. So you know who ends up being the only people that have ever used Medallion Fund since 2005 till today? Only current and previous employees. 69% rate of return. You know what the net, everybody would criticize and they would say, well, their fees are very high. You know how much their fees are? Adam, do you know what their fees are? So let's just say you make 50% rate of return with Medallion Fund. Their fees were roughly 44 to 50%. Did you understand what I just said? Their fees are roughly 44. And everybody would say, why are your fees so high? He says, because even after our fees, guess what their net returns were? You know what their net returns were? Their net returns were 39%. Wow. Did you understand what I just said? 5%. Their net returns were 39%. Wow. So now you may say, well, what's 39% compared to everybody else? Let's go through it. You know who's the second bestest since 1988? Or even earlier than that? George Soros, 31%. You know what Warren Buffett was? 21%. You know what Ray Dalio's fund is? 12%. These guys' net after fees is 39%. And he got into this industry at 40 years old. What should the story tell you? This is a guy that eventually got into, he was a math guy, in his 40s. He was able to find his calling to do what he did. He made people so much money that now, out of the 4 funds, the Medallion Fund is the #1 fund in the world that you can't invest in.
Wow.
It's a secrecy. Their technology on the back end, everybody's trying to figure it out. Nobody knows, and nobody tells anybody, and they're still destroying everybody. In a annual Berkshire Hathaway, Rob, pull this up. Type in Warren Buffett and Jim Simons. Type in Warren Buffett and Jim Simons on YouTube. If you can do, that's the clip right there. Click on that clip. They asked, the lady's asking a question. Shareholders are asking a question. Are you ever planning on using the quantum, math that Jim Simons uses with Berkshire Hathaway? Look what their answer is. Make it bigger, Rob. Go ahead.
What do you think of quants? Jim Simons' Medallion Fund has done 39% net of fees for 3 decades, which proves that it works. Will you consider hiring a quant lieutenant in Berkshire to work alongside with Ted or Todd?
Well, I'll say no to the second part, and I'll let Charlie handle the first part.
Look at Warren Buffett's arms.
Well, that's rather interesting. The leading quant fund did fabulously on the short-term trading. They found little algorithms that worked to make them. They had predictive value, and as long as they kept working, they just kept doing it. As long as the money kept coming in. When they got to using the same system, just to finding some little algorithm and trying to do it mechanically for long-term stock predictions, the record was not nearly as good. And in the short-term stuff, they found that if they tried to do it too much, they destroyed their own advantage. So there was a limit on the amount they could make.
But they were very, very smart.
Yes, they got very rich.
Very, very smart.
Very smart and very rich, yeah.
And
very high grade, by the way.
Yeah.
Rob, can you pull up? So it's so they respect. That's the point. They
and
did
high grade, by the way.
By the way, pull up Rob with the link I just sent you to show the comparison so people know on what happens when if you can pull this up, Rob. This here shows exactly what I've been telling you guys, but it actually shows you the numbers so you can see it. Here's how they compare. Go all the way down. Go down, 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 down. You'll see. Keep going down where it shows the funds they compare. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Right there, right above it. Right there. Look at that. Okay. Medallion Fund versus other legendary investment funds. Okay. Jim Simons, what number do you see? The return. Vinny, what do you see? Green to the right. Annualized return.
39.1%.
Quantum Fund is George Soros. What do you see?
32%.
Steve Cohen, what do you see?
30%.
Magellan Fund, Peter Lynch.
29%.
Berkshire Hathaway.
20%. 20.5%.
And Ray Dalio is what?
12.
Guys, do you realize what it means for you to do 39.1% 30 straight years? Tom, how insane is this to do something like this in business?
This is beyond insane. And can I mention a number we both know?
Sure.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
PHP was growing a CAGR, cumulative annual growth rate. It was a 6-year CAGR of 35%, which was unheard of in the insurance industry. People would come in and sit in a conference room, and Pat would tell them the story about serving the middle class, saving America through, free enterprise, and enabling all these wonderful people to be insurance agents and have new careers. And they said, that's very interesting. And then Pat would say, yeah, half of them are Hispanic, half of them are female. The average is a 37-year-old female. And they would say, WTF? Seriously? That's an incredible group. He says, yeah, and our 6-year CAGR is 35%. And they were like, wait, what? That is so hard to do. That was unheard of. And that was 6 years. This guy's been doing it for 40?
Yeah,
it's incredible.
Well, the great thing about life and business is the following. We had a meeting last night with our guys from BetDavid Consulting. Rob, if you can go to betdavid.com, most people don't know. We run a full-fledged consulting firm upstairs. If you go to betdavid.com, you can go all the way to the bottom and find out the 5x5 brochure, download it, look at it, watch the 22-minute video about how we consult with our clients. But the conversation we were having with our guys yesterday, I was telling them, I said, the challenge with most people in business is the following. Here's what I want you to think about. Think about how many people were in the room in 1988, 89, 2000, when Jim Simons said, we're going to build the #1 fund in the world and everyone's going to want to come to us. And we're eventually going to tell the world no.
And everybody had been shell-shocked from the 1987 crash.
That's right. So think about you're in the room and this guy's casting a vision. What percentage of the room should believe what he has to say?
Not a lot, right? Because he has no record.
Why
no
would you?
record.
Why would you?
Why would you believe him?
His background is not the best.
Yeah.
So who should believe him? What percentage should you say? This guy's a little bit full of shit, or delusional. He thinks very highly of himself. What do you think? Are those not natural things to believe?
Of course.
Of course it is. It's very normal to believe that. But there's a few people that buy into a vision of what's going to be taking place, and they stick around 5, 10, 15, 20 years later. Now imagine the people that stuck around that they have the money in the fund.
Oh, God.
Think about what happened to you.
They're crazy.
You're like,
Crazy rich.
your family's begging you to say, hey, man, is there any way you can get me in? Nah, man. Can you give me a job there just for one day so I can be part of the current or previous?
Please.
They already know many people try to play games. They don't do that. They reach out to recruit. We can't get people to come in to work, right? If in life you have the opportunity to either be part of the right environment where you can win at the highest level, or be somebody that goes and drives an idea to go out there and do something big with it, you're ahead of the game. By the way, Rob, if you can pull up the one thing on end of this month, I'm doing a webinar, AI specifically, on how AI is disrupting businesses. And we're actually giving a white paper to everybody at the end of the webinar. Only the people that will be on. It's a free webinar. It's Tuesday, July 30th, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Go to that QR code and register, because there's limited seating only for this webinar. It doesn't allow us to have 30,000 people. It's limited to, I think, 3,000 people. So get your name in there, because you'll get the webinar, you'll be a part of it, and you'll get the white paper. We'll actually break down a few different things that we're doing that's working for our end right now with David Consulting. But anyways, I learned about Jim Simons many, many years ago, but I got even deeper into the story sometime this week. I said the world needs to hear his story, because they'll be inspired by this guy, Jim Simons.
Pat, when you're talking about the AI technology that was happening back then, and the fact that it's still secret, how did he have that back then, and why is it just like company secrets, they won't let it out? This algorithm stuff that they were talking about?
Well, the average person, they'll say buy and hold, right?
Okay.
And by the way, the buy and hold principle for the average person is the right advice.
Yeah.
The right advice for the person that is the average person, which is 99% of people, buy and hold, dollar cost averaging, put a $500 every month, 30 years from now, it's going to turn into a couple $1 million. And don't worry if the market does this, and don't take your money out. This guy simply sat there and said,
the big ones in the S&P give you little dividends.
Yeah, and by the way, even Warren Buffett made a bet. He says, I'm willing to bet any fund manager that wants to bet with me $1 million over 10 years, choose any one of your funds, you will not outperform S&P 500. So this guy named Teddy Cedris or something like that, I have a hard time pronouncing his name, he takes the $1 million bet. Just type in Warren Buffett $1 million bet S&P 500 TED. This guy takes the bet. He says, oh, our funds are going to do better. He says, you choose your four best funds. And you tell me if they do better. What's his name? Ted Seeds? Ted Sides? I don't even know how to say his name. But hedge fund manager Ted takes the $1 million bet against Warren Buffett. And you know what the funds ends up doing? The S&P 500 over go click on that, Rob, so we can see the numbers. I think over a 10-year period, S&P 500 does 150%, 157%. Go a little lower, Rob. I think it should be right there. Yeah, right there. The S&P 500 during that decade did 125.8%. But the guy that chose the 5 funds, his funds did 2.8%. To the best one, 87.7%, which means the professional money managers couldn't beat S&P 500 in 10 years.
Right.
So even professionals who do this for a living, 9 out of 10 times, they don't even know how to beat the S&P 500. It's not easy to do, right? But this guy says, nope, AI, algorithm, studying, when to sell, when to buy, behavior. They figured that out with machine learning and math. Parents, whatever you got with your kids, if there's anything I can tell you guys, parents, encourage your kids to take math seriously. The future of everything we do is going to be around math. Right now we have 15 machine learning people we hired. You know what these 15 machine learning people are working on? A new site will be launching at the Vault Conference. Only the Vault Conference people will see it first. A new site will be launching at Vault Conference where people are like, well, where do PBD podcasts, where do you guys get all these articles and stories and formatting, and what are you guys using? We're about to release it to you. And it's going to be information for people to be able to realize, Here's how to get information. You're going to be able to get lopsided stories. What's the lopsided story on why is only the left reporting on this? Why is only the right reporting on this? What is the percentage of this story being on the left or the right? What's going on politically within my local? What is going on with sports? What is going on internationally? One news site save you 5 minutes. Just go on there, boom, get the news, leave. Specific to what you're interested in. 15 machine learning guys are working right now on this website, and we'll be launching that first week of September at the Vol Conference. But again, everything is math, AI, machine learning. Those who learn, who leverage that will be competing in the marketplace. Tom, you were trying to say something.
No. You've said it beautifully. I just always remind people when you see stories like this, look at it through the lens of history. That bet started what year? 2007, right? Ted and Warren. At the end of 2008, the S&P looked like it was pretty behind in the bet. Remember that? What happened in 2008? And yet, over 10 years, as Warren Buffett predicted, not only did the S&P recover, it took off. And I look at that, and I look at how at the beginning of that medallion fund, how every money manager had been horribly embarrassed in 1987 by the mega crash. And this guy is in 1988 saying, look, I know the smoke hasn't quite cleared, Vinny, on your investment resources, but we think we got a better way. And you're like, what are we talking about? The whole market just landed on everybody. Everybody was wrong in one way or another. 1987, this is terrible crash. And you're telling me you've got some better way? Where were you a year ago? You have to look at things through the lens of history and kind of see just how profound and how amazing these outcomes were.
I love this story about Jim Simons. I'll kind of maybe make it applicable to the common guy out there. You talked about active investing versus passive investing, and how what was it? 90% of active investors don't beat the market. So what's a different term for passive investing? That's just index investing, in which Warren Buffett basically says, "Listen, just buy the market. If you can't beat the market, just buy the market, aka buy the S&P 500, and just hold, or as the Bitcoiners call it, hodl, HODL." There it is, Haktua, that thing. But it's totally okay when you're an investor to be boring, and it's okay to be good. You don't have to be great. As much as I would love to be a part of this medallion fund, you can't get into it, but just buying the S&P 500 has served myself and many millionaires in America very well, and you don't got to be a brainiac to do that. So, what did Steve Jobs say? That the ones that are crazy enough to think that they can change the world actually do it. This guy, he kind of maybe took a little bit of Gandhi in his thing. He said, at first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they call you crazy, and then you win. This guy figured it out.
Revolutionized.
He revolutionized
totally
it,
revolutionized.
AI. Bottom line is you can build wealth slow.
How would you like to meet Dwayne Johnson, take a picture with him, and be celebrated in front of nearly 10,000 people at Palm Beach Convention Center? Let me tell you how. Years ago, when I was a financial advisor, insurance agent, and nobody knew who I was, small time, I'm trying to make it happen. I'm trying to get to clients, but no one's answering my calls because back then there was no Instagram, email, none of this stuff. I went to the store called DSW, and I would buy shoes, cheap shoes, but I would buy shoes. And I would take one of the shoes out of the box, and I would put the other shoe in a box with a note in it. This was a way of being funny. And in the box, I would say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, now that I got one foot in the door, help me get the next one in. I'm a local financial advisor, et cetera, et cetera. And oh my God, I would send 100. I would get 50 calls back. They would laugh. This is so funny. No one's ever sent us a shoe. We wouldn't mind getting the other one. 20% of them would say, this is so funny that we're willing to listen to you, and I'd go to their house and I would do business with them. Now think about today. This story I'm telling you, this is 2001, 2002. Today, if you want to prospect somebody or meet somebody doing business, you know you're one contact away from your life changing. That's what happened to me many, many times in my life. Today, you can send a cold email, less than 1% chance somebody responds to you. You can DM somebody, less than 3%. Twitter is less than 5%. LinkedIn is less than 8%. However, this is why we built the app Monect. And I'm about to announce the next contest to you. On Monect app, you download the app, you send a message, but you pay for the other person to get back to you in a text, in a video, or 15-minute FaceTime call. 94% chance they respond to you on the app. That's Monect numbers. Changing people's life, creating ways for people. There's one guy that's buying buildings that were former strip clubs and turn them into rehabilitation centers. There's a guy that's raising millions of dollars just through Monect. There's a guy that's sitting there talking to others about business ideas, HR question, marriage question, relationship questions. But here's the latest contest with Monect. If you haven't downloaded it yet, the last contest we announced, we had a massive party, dinner. We came down here, had cigar, did a podcast together pretty much for 6 hours. We were together. This next one here, we have a new contest announced from July 1st, and it goes to the end of the month in the month of August. Here's how it works. The winner, the top winners of the different categories, there's 5 categories. You get on the stage at the Vault Conference. You got to buy the ticket yourself. On stage in front of 5,000 people. The winners get a championship belt. The winners go to the back and get a chance to meet Dwayne Johnson and take a picture with them. The winners get invited to a private CEO lounge at the conference. They're invited to my suite, and a sprinter will come and pick you up. You come back to my suite. We'll have a nice hour and a half conversation to get a strategy session together. And then obviously while you're at the Vault Conference, you'll be with everybody else. The last one was such a big hit, but here's how the contest works. Lightweight category, you have 5 categories that you're not performing in. Total completed Monects, total unique Monects, total reviews, unique reviews, and money earned. The one on the left shows how many you've done. The one on the right shows where you rank in it. Lightweight is people who have never used Monect before as an expert. Right now, first place will be Stephen Hamill, then Carolyn Ariano, and that's for lightweight. Go to middleweight, Rob. Middleweight is people that are experts who have done 1 of 50 Monects. These guys are all competing against each other. You got Candace Owens at the top, who has done the most, Rob, if you can go a little higher, who has done the most Monects, done the most unique Monects, reviews, total reviews, dollars earned. And you notice she's number 1 ranked on the right, except second place in dollar. Then it's Aaron Borgman, Robert, Samuel. You'll see the names. Go lower. Then you have the heavyweight, people that have done 51 plus Monects. Then it's Paneva's next. First, then it's Calvin, then it's Dustin, then it's Chris Cuomo. Go lower, then we have the home team, which is Vinny at the top, then it's myself, then Tom. Then users, people that are asking questions. You download the Monect, you've never done it before, you simply ask people questions. Total Monects, total unique experts you ask questions of, total dollar spent, total reviews, Monects made public, whoever does the most, they win. And at this point right now, it's Armstead King, then it's Clinton Breve, then it's Chandler C. And if you go below, then you have the existing users who have done Monects before. At the top is Jeanette Garibian today, then it's Kyle Starr, and the list goes on. Anyways, if you want to be in the right environment and use the app to Monect and connect with others, Monect is slowly becoming the #1 app on social media for networking where people actually get back to you. So if you want to compete in the next contest, download the app, start Monecting today, and go on Monect.com. Look at the Leaders Bulletin to see where you rank because it updates on a daily basis. Looking forward to seeing you compete for this next Monect contest.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.